So I want to say a few words about the practice that we are doing, and hopefully you'll have some questions about it at the end, and we can have some discussion. We call this practice for rising energy practice. And the reason we call it rising energy, obviously it's a kind of meditation, but it's a meditation that, as some of you reported, it heats up your inner system. And when something heats up, it tends to rise. Isn't that right? When water boils, it rises. And what we are doing is we are melting tensions and crystallized things in our system. We're all adults, and some of us are older than others, but we have things in us that represents pain that we have repressed, and we have layers of tensions and things that we are not even aware of because we are not so focused inside. So the whole purpose here is to turn our attention inside and to make those tensions and those blocks and those crystallized things in us into driving it into kind of fuel for change. It causes us to feel a sense of burning sometimes, and it means that things are getting transformed in us. And as you know, when ice melts, it becomes more powerful, doesn't it? When ice melts and you get the big waterfalls, you can make electricity from waterfalls. Ice, nice to have in a drink, but not much else. And when you heat that up even more, then it starts to bubble up and rise. So this actually happens in our system when we work at it long enough and deeply enough, is that the energy that is locked into the crystallization and the tensions in us, when those start to melt, then we have a sense of inner flow. The energy flows down through the chakra system. And when it heats up more and more with our attention, then it starts to rise in the spine. This is technically what is described in all the texts about this, and this is also what you can observe in your own life. You may not have a big experience of energy shooting up your spine. This is not necessary, but you will find as you practice that you will start to experience that your life is changing. Your awareness of your life is changing, and your ability to be in connection with yourself, in contact with yourself deeply through all kinds of challenging situations is increasing. And maybe, before we felt very shy, we can't talk. I remember when I was going to college, we had a speech class. I had to get up in front of a group of college students and make a public talk. And I was scared out of my mind. This was not something that came easily. But now I don't think about it, and I don't care if I do a great job or not a great job. I just do the best I can, and I figure it's good enough, So you become more at ease with who you are. You gain more confidence about, okay, every human being is imperfect. Every human being has these tensions and these blocks inside of various kinds and challenges in life. Life is full of very, very difficult challenges. But the way we relate to those challenges, we have control over. If we want to be in control, and manage. Not control in a bad way. We're not going to be able to control what happens in our life. There's a lot of things that just unfold, but then how we relate to it. You know, how do we relate to somebody we love dying? How do we relate to somebody, leaving us? How do we relate to suddenly being super successful at something that we didn't expect to be successful at? Well, this can also be very challenging. Then you become arrogant and you start to think that you are a big shot because you have suddenly a lot of money or something, Anything on that level can become a blockage, can become a kind of prison that we are stuck in. So the purpose of this practice is to not be stuck with ourselves, our lower level of self, if you wish, with all of these patterns and self-doubt and fear and sometimes arrogance, all of these things we want to rise above. And by rising above it and getting more deeply connected with ourselves, we get messages from our deeper self. I am just that energy. I am just that basic being. I'm just like everybody else in that sense. Of course, there are superficial differences, but if we learn to relate more and more to the essence of people, don't you think then it becomes a lot less conflict in the world? It's pretty self-evident, and it becomes less conflicts in us. We become more unified. We experience the oneness more rather than the separation and duality. But this takes practice, and it takes inner work, and it takes gradually doing what I call freeing ourselves from the web of karma. This is the title of my book that Deviji edited and worked very hard on with me. So I'll use that a little bit as a way of talking about this, because everybody in the world is more or less stuck in the web of karma. And that means that, whatever your upbringing was, whatever your parents and teachers and social connections did in your life with all kinds of good intentions, it can create tensions and patterns and things that are difficult to deal with. Don't you think? Does that ring a bell? Do you sometimes find yourself kind of going on automatic and you realize, oh, why am I reacting like that? I had that experience when I was in my early 20s. My father was alcoholic and died young, and he was a very fine man, but he didn't manage his life very well, and there were good reasons for that I understand. But, I was just so depressed and I had so little self-confidence. But I was very aware that, there must be something more to life than this, what I'm experiencing. And then, I really started to ask inside, please, help me. Somehow, I want to have some help in getting to a deeper place in myself where I can be free of those limitations. And that was my web of karma. It was really stuff that I had developed in my upbringing. My parents did the best they could and did very many good things as well, but there were things there that were source of depression and imbalance and so on. So gradually through the practice, and I met a teacher who really helped me with that for a number of years, and I practiced, and gradually a lot of these things started to dissolve and became just an energy experience. And at the end of it, or in the process of doing it, I had more and more just a feeling, I just am. I'm free. I have love to give. I'm fine on this planet for as long as I'm meant to be here. And everything is really okay. Even with all this pain, it's fine. And this was for me just a total weight off my shoulders. I was free of myself. Free of my lower self. And I was in touch with a deeper essence that all of these different religions and texts and philosophies and practices talk about. And that is to just get into the here and now and be here, be grateful for the life that you have and really enjoy it. Even when it's very difficult. I mean, I've had times in my life when basically I felt like, oh my God, I hope this airplane falls down so I can be finished. I mean, sometimes it's like that, you know. Everything is too much for us. But we can free ourselves even from that. We can take one step in front of another, and sooner or later, if we keep doing the practice, we really can experience this energy in us, in ourselves, rising. And we feel liberated, free of the patterns that we have gotten caught in through our creation of this identity that we have. You know, the ironic thing is that the identity that we have created for ourselves and has been created with the help of society and so on, this is the same thing that becomes our blockage to being in touch with that deeper self. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being successful, having lots of money. None of those things are bad, except when they become our prison. And anything can be a prison. You want to be famous? Okay, you're famous, and suddenly it all falls down on your head. You know. So the most important thing is to be in touch with the basic source of our life. We don't have to talk about God or be religious or any of that stuff. We don't have to be mystical. The fact that we are here is mystical enough, isn't it?